All okay? Yes? Have I shown you why economics is the best subject? Don't do it, don't copy this. I've shown some of you. Wait, don't copy this. See, in economics we always draw smiles. What do you draw in accounting? What do you draw in accounting? You draw a T. Yeah? Balance sheet, trial balance, profit and loss. What do you draw in ACST? You draw a timeline. Now see, isn't economics the best one? And then what do you draw in marketing? Nothing. Yeah? Who knows? Yeah. So, smiles. Yeah? All good? Excited? So, let's apply MR equals MC to the market structures. What is a market structure? I'll do this very quickly because you all should be okay with what a market structure is. How many market structures are there? 4. We've got perfect competition. We've got monopoly. What's the difference? Perfect competition has very many firms. Why? Because there are no barriers to entry, whereas monopoly has just a single firm. Why? Because there are barriers to entry. Can you see this at the back? Come forward somehow. Sit on somebody else. Can you see the word monopoly? And then we have market structures in between, which is monopolistic competition. And we haven't done this yet. Oligopoly. How many firms in monopolistic competition? Many firms. Why are there many firms? Again, there are no barriers to entry. In oligopolies, we have a few firms. Why? Because there are barriers to entry. What about the products that are being sold? In perfect competition, the products are identical. They are exactly the same as everyone else's product. Because the products are identical, we say that the demand curve is perfectly elastic. In perfect competition, the demand curve is perfectly elastic. What does elastic mean? What does elasticity mean? Elasticity is another word for sensitivity or responsiveness. So perfectly elastic means it is extremely sensitive. You can see that. Perfectly elastic means it is extremely sensitive to the price. Perfectly elastic means it is extremely sensitive to the price. If you raise the price, the quantity you sell will be zero. That's in perfect competition. Is demand perfectly elastic in monopolistic competition? No, the products are slightly different. You can make a note that the demand curve is less elastic. Make a note that the demand curve is less elastic than in perfect competition. Why is it less elastic? Because the products are slightly differentiated. In fact, the main feature of monopolistic competition, is product differentiation. It's the only characteristic which is unique to monopolistic competition. None of the other markets have product. None of the other markets have too many pens. None of the other markets have product differentiation. What about monopoly? Less elastic or more elastic than monopolistic competition? Less, because the product is unique. The product is unique, so the demand curve is less elastic. So you can add a note. The more similar the products, elasticity will go. The more similar the products, elasticity will go up. The more similar the products, elasticity will go up. Perfect competition is the extreme, perfectly elastic, and then as you get product differentiation, you get closer and closer towards monopoly. So, you had a question in your assignment. The firms were making profit in perfect competition, but the profit is not long-lived because new firms can always join the market. So some of you said maybe those wheat farmers can differentiate their product. That's half right, but then the problem is even monopolistic competition has no barriers to entry. So even if you do differentiate your product, new firms can enter the market in the long run. So the best answer would have been not just differentiate your product, but also make your product unique. And how do you prevent other firms from copying your product? You'll have to get a trademark, a copyright, or a patent. Yeah? So from a firm's point of view, what market structure would you prefer? From a firm's point of view, you would prefer to be a monopoly. To be a monopoly, you need a barrier to entry. Barriers can be legal, barriers can be economies of scale. Barriers can be control of resources. So if you're a firm, you can innovate your product, differentiate your product, get a trademark or a patent so no one can copy you. Another option would be try and control the resource. All the farmers could try and buy all the land that is left over to prevent other farmers from joining the market. Coles and Woolworths do that often. Whenever there's a new development in a residential area, they go and buy plots of vacant land for the sole purpose of not building a supermarket, but just to hold the land so that Aldi or another competitor can't build a supermarket there. They're trying to control the resource. To build a new supermarket, you will need land. So what Coles and Woolworths do, when new residential developments come on board, even if they have no intention of building a supermarket, they buy the land and hold it to prevent other firms from entering the market. So you could have a monopoly by controlling the resources. Is that okay? Different ways that a firm could try and become a monopoly. So we all agree that if you're a firm, you prefer monopoly. If you're a consumer, what do you prefer? That's a bit tricky. What would you prefer, perfect competition or monopolistic competition? Perfect competition is a good idea because the price will be lower, but the problem is all the products will be identical. Everybody will have the same t-shirt on right now, for example. Same size and everything. Yeah? So if you wanted some variety, if you wanted some choice, you might go with monopolistic competition. So they both have a plus and a minus. Cheaper, no variety. If you're making notes, that's cheaper but no variety. That's slightly more expensive, but that at least some variety for consumers. So we've got the four market structures. We know our cost curves from the previous analysis. Now we can use that to see how firms make their decisions to produce output. Let's look at perfect competition first. Everyone okay? Everyone okay? No one's saying anything. How many firms in perfect competition? How many firms in perfect competition? Very many firms. Can they decide the price? Who decides the price? The market. In an exam, whenever you talk about perfect competition, make sure you draw the market and the firm, both, just like in your assignment. You've got the market and a firm or the firm, a firm. It's a representative firm. You can swap sides if you like, but you need both, and they need to be side by side as well. They need to be side by side. Why? Why can't I draw one underneath the other? Because firms are price takers. If you could add that. In perfect competition, firms are price takers. They cannot decide the price. Some of your assignments, you mentioned the firm should increase the price if there's a loss. That doesn't work in perfect competition. They can't change the price. They simply accept the price. They can't decide the price, but they can decide the quantity. They can't decide the price. That price is decided by the market. They can't decide the price. That price is decided by the market. Now, since we've done more topics since this, we'll put everything in here, now that you know all the topics. What type of efficiency can we see in a perfectly competitive market? What type of efficiency can we see? There's two types of efficiency. If you could add somewhere in your notes. There's two types of efficiency. The first is called allocative efficiency. Make a note. The first type of efficiency is called allocative efficiency, which is marginal social benefit equals marginal social cost. The second type of efficiency is called productive efficiency. Which is minimum long-run average cost. So we'll assume no externalities for now. Assuming there are no externalities, we can say supply is not just marginal cost, but also marginal social cost. Demand is not just marginal benefit, it is also marginal social benefit. So what type of efficiency do we have here? Allocative or productive, based on the definitions I just gave you. So this is now allocatively efficient. Because we have marginal social benefit equals marginal social cost. Another way of saying allocative efficiency, the deadweight loss equals 0. And another way of saying allocative efficiency, the total surplus is maximized. Three ways of defining allocative efficiency. The firm is a price. The firm is a price taker. If you could add, the firm is a price taker. It takes the price as given, but it can decide the quantity. Using the what rule? Using the profit maximizing rule. MR equals MC. Which reminds me about your assignment as well as the exam. Don't assume that the marker knows what MR equals MC and all those rules are. We don't know if you know it, so you need to write it down to show us that you know why you chose that point. So in terms of writing your answer, pretend you're actually writing your answer to a non-economist, maybe your grandma or your grandfather or your neighbor who doesn't know economics. So you need to tell them, oh, by the way, that reason is because of MR equals MC. So then we know that you know it, and then we can give you credit for it. So if it's not written on the paper, we don't know that you actually know it, so you need to convey that to us. So look at the amount of marks allocated as well. So if it's like 5 marks, 7 marks to a question, don't just say, oh, the firm chooses Q star. Say, the firm chose that based on MR equals MC, which is the profit maximizing rule. So easy ways to actually collect marks for yourself. State the obvious stuff to the marker, because we're checking if you know. If it's not on the paper, thankfully we're not marking your brain, so we can only mark what's written. Yeah? So you have to write it down. If it's written and you've mentioned it, we can give you credit for it. Okay, we'll draw the long run. So if this is the long run, where should I draw the average cost curve? Above the price, below the price, or on the price? On, because in the long run the economic profit will be 0. So I will draw the average cost curve on the price. You can call it ATC, you can also call it AC. Both are okay. The economic profit is 0 in the long run because if economic profit was more than 0, new firms would join until economic profit is 0. The only way to get economic profit is 0 economic profit is P minus ATC times Q, and the only way to get that equal to 0 would be the P and the ATC would have to be equal in the long run. Therefore, the economic profit will be 0. I think we'll have a 7-minute break.